greenhouse gas grants management. This is a work session sponsored by Commissioner Ryan. With that, I'll hand it over to Commissioner Ryan.
Great. I need to turn this mic on, or is that the right thing? Okay, not like council meeting.
So is my mic off now, or do I have to do something?
It's on.
It's on. So do I need to turn it off?
You can. Rebecca, can you hear me?
Remember the days when we didn't have all these?
Oh, yes, yeah, when we did take them.
Is that always going to be your seat there, Megan? Okay, so if Commissioner Maps does.
Commissioner
is not
Rubio.
Voting my way, just.
Yeah.
I try to be as close to the side as possible, so I'm out of the camera.
I'd like to ask our sixth colleague to resolve this conflict.
Please don't ever, I don't even have a mic. It's just so you can keep your eye on me.
And vice versa. It's a win-win. Win-win.
I do think you'll stop at 11:30.
Okay, that's fine. Well, there's a little monitor next to me. Does anybody know what it is?
Oh, I see.
Oh, I don't
Did the
know what
planning
that is.
commission that it comes
That
here?
you manipulate lights, I bet,
Oh, that could be.
and the air conditioning and all that. I bet you that's what
You're
that
all
is.
What a sound.
I would never do that. I'm not that mean. Love the fact that closed captioning is capturing everything I say.
Do we own this building or lease it?
What's that?
Do we own this building?
Still between us and PSU.
I'm sorry.
Remember, we built this building.
Yeah, actually, that'd be great. Thank you.
And the planning people,
Test, test. Rebecca, can you hear me?
Coffee doesn't quite hydrate.
they almost walked off the job because they want to come up here.
True enough.
Adam, are you there? Test, test.
I can't find my cursor. There it is. I got that. Got participant screen.
Zoom through.
Test, test. Adam,
Megan,
Can you hear me?
Come here for a minute. The participant screen went
We are ready.
off the side, and I can't
Rebecca,
find it.
can you hear me?
So
I can hear you.
Ah,
The
great.
participant right?
Commissioner
No, no.
Rubio?
The list.
Yeah, I can hear you.
It slid to the right. And
Let's
went
do
off.
it.
Here we have
There you go.
Okay.
I like to look at it this way.
All right, that's
You want them
perfect.
on the side instead?
Nope, I like it. Smart tech people sorted it all out, and we're back. Commissioner Ryan, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. And welcome, public service colleagues elected and appointed, and those listening in this morning. This morning is about celebrating our partnerships in the community to help move the work forward to achieve population results. I think we all know that turning the government ship around and improving the way we deliver services is so often enhanced by our partners that we work with in the community. And before I move forward, I want to start by thanking the Grants Office in particular. Sheila Craig, you've been very engaged in this. We've had, I think, 4 meetings on the topic, at least that I've been involved with. And then Tim Grew, the leader of our budget as well. And we really took this opportunity to build some capacity with this topic. And the slides are actually being run by the office, and we've had a great time trying to get to the bottom of this and the scope of it. That said, this isn't baked. We're here to have dialogue. It's a work session. We're workshopping this. And we look forward to all of you having opinions and thoughts today as we move forward to some action that will be very important for Portlanders. It's vital that we just keep leaning into the team that's there. And Christine, thank you for being here. You'll be guiding our slides this morning. Our goal today is to provide our partners and our taxpayers much improved clarity, guidelines that are transparent with goals, and then accountability to track those, the evaluation of those goals if they're on track. And before we start boiling this ocean, I think it's very important that we focus on what the actual scope is today. Next slide, please. So this all started with a budget note, and it was during the 23-24 budget process, the following was approved. The Office of Community and Civic Life, in partnership with the Office of Management and Finance Grants Management Division, will develop a comprehensive process of transparency framework for community grants in the City of Portland. In addition to ensuring equity and inclusivity, the new framework will require clear accounting, measurable goals, robust community engagement, and transparent reporting. We aim to ensure accountability and fiscal responsibility and mutually desired goals. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so last year, the big picture is $130 million in grants went out the door, but many of these grants were associated with PSEF, Children's Levy, and pass-through funding from federal and state governments. Of that 130, 17 million of those funds were general fund and special appropriation. The granting of Portland's tax money to nonprofit partners needs clear guidelines and requirements for grants and more transparency. So we're here today to workshop how we can better leverage these dollars and ensure greater accountability. Let's go ahead to the next slide. So again, this is about staying in the scope of today's conversation. You might see now and then in the facilitation that if we're getting out of that scope, we'll try to rein you back in. That could be another workshop. So what we're doing is we're focusing not on PSEF or Children's Levy, as they have voter mandate compliance. Prosper Portland is excluded as they sit outside of our reporting system, and perhaps there could be a similar workshop to be conducted on their funds specifically. We will also leave out any pass-through, again, grants that come from the state and federal governments who have a lot of compliance and guidelines. So with all of that, allow me to turn this over to Tim Grew to provide more teeth to this discipline, if you will, to guide us forward as better steps to steward the people's money. Take it away, Tim.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. I just wanted to very quickly say that I've learned a lot myself about our outgoing grants during this process. And we hope that we can give you some valuable information on how we are working and managing these things. I just wanted to start by some of the strengths and weaknesses of our current system. In strengths, these grants allow us to support a variety of services addressing the city's issues. They also give us flexibility on an annual basis to direct the grants year to year. And that's important because it allows you to address issues that are arising to the council where these funds might be useful. And then potentially it assists us in supporting the startups, in some cases, of community service organizations, helping them get off the ground as we move forward. On the weakness side, and don't take this longer list as longer than the strength list to mean too much here. There's not always a focus on the priorities for how we're spending these community grants. That's not to say that some of them aren't as important as others, but it would be useful to make sure we're linking them to the council's priorities and the Bureau priorities. And consistent compliance with the financial policies and city codes are sometimes not always followed to the T. And I should say that there are some issues in terms of the financial policy being consistent with the city code as well. And then there's an absence of competition in some respects, allowing people to compete for a particular type of program that the council's interested in. And then in some cases, I found as I looked at the data, there are multi-year grants being contributed to the same organizations. I'm not saying that's good or bad, that's just an observation. And then there's an absence in most cases of performance outcomes. So we can know that the money that you're spending on these community grants actually are having the desired outcomes that the council wishes to have. And then regular reporting on expenditures and outcomes could be improved. Next slide, please. So in terms of one of the reasons we're here today, and you're going to have discussions after our presentation, is what we think needs to be improved going forward. And I mentioned some of these and the strengths and weaknesses, but we really do need to have or create a common policy and procedural process for the issuance of grants. We need to ensure that grants are, as I said earlier, linked to council and bureau priorities to the degree possible. We need to address existing and evolving community issues using these funds. I'll talk about the budget here in a moment. Address established performance outcomes, as I said, and then also making sure we have regular reporting coming to the council on the status, not just in terms of expenditures, but also in terms of performance. And I think all of this will add up to having greater transparency in the community grants that you authorize. Next slide, please. I'm just going to talk briefly to give you some financial background on these community grants. This slide provides an overview of the general fund actual costs for the outgoing community grants for over the period fiscal year 18-19 to 22-23. And the average annual expenditure here is about $10.7 million per year. However, if you look to the right, you'll see that there was a fairly substantial gap of $5.7 million between the last 2 years of this chart. And that's just because there were additional programs that the council had an interest in granting that were consistent with some of the priorities the council was developing at those times. And just some examples, I'm not going to go through the whole list, although we do have that information. There was an allocation made to the Black United Fund of Oregon, Grant Makers of Oregon, the Oregon Community Foundation, Selwood Moreland Improvements, Venture Portland, and the list goes on from there. And I'm sure you're familiar with most of these organizations that you've worked with them as council members. Next slide, please. This, excuse me, got my charts mixed up here. There we go. This chart makes a statement of its own. We went through and tried as best we could to try and find out where your grants have been going over time. And this is a 5-year dollar amount here. And clearly, most of the money is going to nonprofits in the community. And this is maybe a good time to give you a type of problem that we have with our system. I asked whether or not we could break down these nonprofit organizations in our systems. And you have to go through all the contracts basically to itemize those types of things. So one of the things you're going to hear about today is trying to create a more centralized system in SAP or wherever, where we can track all of the grants. And when you ask us questions about what types of grants we're funding, it's easy to access those grants. And then you also see here we have very small categories comparatively of money given to businesses, schools, domestic limited liabilities, and LLCs. We can provide you with those information if you have an interest in that. So as you can see, over a 5-year period, we spent a lot of money on community grants for good purposes, I think, in terms of the information I've had access to. And now I'd like to turn it over to Sheila to provide you with more information on our systems. Sheila.
Well, the good news is we've presented you with the issues, but we have already been working on process improvement related to these issues. Special appropriations transitioned from the City Budget Office to the Grants Management Division in 2015. And when we took over the management of special appropriations, we realized we did not have consistent templates and we were not consistent across the city. As we started talking to other bureaus about their outgoing grant programs, we realized our templates were not consistent, our requirements were not consistent. We would have a situation where Civic Life would grant an organization funding, and we would grant organization funding, same organization, and they would come back and they would say, why is Civic Life's insurance requirement $1 million and why is yours $2 million? So we quickly started to learn that we had inconsistencies across the city. And also an understanding of when we started implementing the COVID response funding, we started working more closely with those other bureaus that had grant programs. And so all of these inconsistencies started coming to the surface. We realized that not all of our bureaus were aware of the policies that were in place related to outgoing grants, the city code. So we quickly learned that we needed to update our policy. We needed to make that policy something that was applicable across all bureaus, because currently it's pretty specific to special appropriations only. So we started the Grants Management Division. We started working on a policy update. That update has actually gone through the city attorney review already, but it's on hold at this point, so we could have this work session, so we could go back and update that policy based on the conversation we have in this work session. Over the last couple of years, we are in the process of implementing a centralized grant tracking system. As Tim said, the data that was presented to you today is very hard to get out of our financial system. It does not give us a lot of information. Specifically, as Tim was saying, for us to tell you what type of organizations we're giving funding to, someone had to go through and search on the website every 400 organizations to determine what kind of organizations those are. And we also do not have the ability to split that information out into geographic areas so we can see the areas of Portland where this funding is going to. So we identified this issue. We are in the process of implementing a grant tracking system. We currently have Parks, Office of Violence Prevention, Procurement, and BDS are utilizing that system. One of the policy updates is that all bureaus will be required to utilize that system for their outgoing grants. So we can have one system for the complete life cycle of a grant application to close out. And then we've also, in fall of 2023, the Grant Makers Group coordination transitioned from Civic Life to the Grants Management Division. And that is giving us an opportunity to coordinate across all those bureaus, identify our internal issues, and also identify like our external issues our external partners are have doing business with the city of Portland. We meet on a quarterly basis, and we did meet. I did meet with them to share with them that we were going to have this session. So we can talk in that group. We talk about things like policy, and that's educating all of our bureaus on what our policy is, and also bringing them into the conversation on our policy update. Throughout the COVID response funding, there was a team created for that, and it's data equity reporting. And that team has also created a framework that will be a requirement in the policy that all outgoing grants will be required to follow this framework. And Christine is with us today and is going to share the framework.
Great. Thank you, Shayla. Good morning, Council. I'm Christine Kendrick, Data Services Manager with Smart City PDX in the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. On behalf of my colleagues named on the slide and throughout the presentation, I'll be providing an overview of the collaborative and centrally coordinated data and equity framework. So our team includes staff from Office of Equity and Human Rights, Office of Management and Finance, and Smart City PDX. Together, we built a new, scalable performance data management approach that centers equity, accountability, and transparency. Our approach is comprehensive with a set of end-to-end support services and tools. It begins with equity-based tools for grant selection and collaborative reporting measure development. We spent a lot of time with each project team in the rescue plan investments to ensure that performance measures were tied to equity outcome goals and that there was agreement and clarity on what data was going to be collected. All projects use the same uniform data standards, so we have consistent measures. And we provide office hours throughout this whole process to help with data collection methods, designing surveys, or reviewing data submissions to make sure, again, we're receiving the data that was agreed upon. We've established data cleaning standard workflows and data pipelines, including a rescue plan database, so that we can receive, store, and manage and share all of this performance measure data. And all of this governance support and tools leads to our ability to provide open data, analyses and data visualizations that can then engage conversations and discussions and review of project impacts and progress towards defined outcomes. Ultimately, then, that should inform the next set of decisions about types of projects to support with grants. As a result of the first few steps of this approach for the rescue plan projects and U.S. Treasury grant funds, we were able to create a nested reporting structure for all of these projects. So there are 47 projects in total with about 345 different performance measures. Every single grant performance measure is tied to a project outcome. All of the projects are nested under 10 citywide equity outcomes, and then these are nested under priority areas that came from council and initial COVID-19 relief engagement efforts. This type of structure allows us to tell very detailed grant-specific stories, but then also aggregate data across projects that have similar goals and outcomes and priorities, so you can talk about impacts across the program as well. So I'm going to walk through an example to just also help show some benefits of this approach. So say we have a question from one of you, or maybe your staff or a community member, and they would like to learn how many individuals have been served in household stabilization projects using rescue plan funds.
Christine?
Yes.
Question. Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're going outside of the scope of what we talked about earlier. So this is within the grants that we receive, that we actually have regulations, we have compliance, we have all of the tools that we hope to have for the 17 million that it does not include. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so maybe I could.
So you're giving us some North Star on where we could go with the others that we don't have that for? Just wanted to get some clarity since I spent my time trying to get us focused on what the scope of today is.
Thank you for pointing that out so it doesn't feel. Yeah, this was a unique opportunity with American Rescue Plan Act that we had a chance to invest in a data and equity team and build a new type of framework. So this was a chance to build it, test it out. So we want to share with you the results of that.
Okay, so we're looking at some North Star practices.
Yes.
All right,
and
thank
how
you.
we could
It was new
scale
to
it.
me, so I just wanted to make sure we had that dialogue. Thanks.
Yeah. So the goal is that this could be scaled to other types of grants, the focus of the session. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so we have this question about, a broad question about use of funds under a similar priority area, and maybe someone also wants to know about demographics of those individuals, because this specific grant program is supposed to serve those that were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So without this management strategy and system, answering these questions would require us to coordinate with 9 different project teams across 4 different city bureaus and offices, 1 external partner. We would then have to work on aligning all of those data sets, and there might be different formats and different methods for the data collection. So this result could not likely be produced in a very quick, timely manner, and it may also be incomplete and inaccurate. So perhaps not each project collected data about the demographics. They may not have it to begin with, or maybe they collected it but all use different standards. So then you have to make a lot of decisions about how to merge those different data sets. In contrast, with the data team and a pipeline, the same request would just take a few seconds per query. The process is documented, repeatable, and ready to be run again as projects continue with their implementation. And I won't spend too much time on these results, but since I did propose some pretty specific questions, I just wanted to share with you and kind of show that because of the system, we were able to do this. So as of December 30th, 2023, 8,257 individuals have received household stabilization support services from City of Portland Rescue Plan funds. Of those total individuals, 21% identify as Black, 47% as women, and 13% as Black and a woman. So these exploratory plots show the distribution of these percentages for individuals that identify as women by project and specifically as Black women. We just wanted to show you the ability that we can dive into detail, we can do different types of aggregations and combinations because, again, of the system that we set up, and hopefully this could be then applied to other types of grants and similar projects. The other feature of this approach and framework is the Rescue Plan Open Data Portal. So all Rescue Plan reporting data is shared publicly through this portal. And this portal was designed with our Smart City PDX Community Leads cohort, which is a group of community leaders who work with the city to improve our use of data and technology. And that was really important to work with community to design this so that we were thinking about the context that needs to be added, any type of harm reduction when it comes to sharing data and presenting visualizations. It also altered the initial dashboards and visualizations that we first presented on the dashboard. One of those examples is this partners dashboard. And so through CARES Act feedback and other grant maker community spaces, a lot of community partners have been asking, who is receiving these grants? What type of work are they doing? So this is really important to be able to show this information in one place. So in this dashboard, you can explore summary data, such as the total number of nonprofit and businesses that have received grants or contracts as a result of this grant program, the distribution of the amount and size of the organization. You can also explore a list of all of the partners by organization name, the amount that they received, and a description of the type of work they're doing to help us implement these grant projects.
Just a quick point of clarification here. So is this just for the pilot, for the handful of programs that we currently have going through the pilot? So I think you mentioned violence prevention and a couple of other ones. So for those 5 or 6 programs, we could pull that information out. But in general, that's not a capability that we easily have.
Yes, this is actually for the 47 rescue plan projects. So,
Oh, okay. So we did this for our
all that. But yes, that example is limited just to that grant program. We've also worked in close partnership with project teams to design project-specific dashboards. And this is an example of the Safe Rest Villages data. So we work with these teams to identify additional needs and views of the data. We hold iterative, intensive design and meetings. We preview the dashboards with any of their partners, contractors, and leadership. And then we're always kind of updating this to include responsive features and different requests that folks want to look at. And we've actually just begun this process with Office of Violence Prevention. And that will be a dashboard design opportunity that will actually combine grant-funded projects and outcomes and non-grant to tell a comprehensive story. We can do that because, again, the structure of this data and this support and approach. So I've talked a lot about this data and equity framework. It really does cover a lot of different elements of modern data management systems where data is truly becoming a community asset. It includes the really visible products such as dashboards and data analyses, but also a lot of the invisible parts that we often don't get a chance to invest in. And that's why this was a unique opportunity to test out this idea. And that's the support, the technology, the governance, a lot of the things underneath it that you don't see, but really drive to make it replicable, scalable, and some of those visualizations more sustainable. So as we were in the implementation of this framework, we also identified an additional opportunity to partner with the City Budget Office and take lessons learned from this work and several other projects, such as City Data Governance, Community Safety Data Project, and build out some citywide grant reporting guidance. So this now is kind of trying to take some of the lessons learned and a way that we could start to apply and implement some of the frameworks to grants that are a focus of the session that you laid out. So the guidance provides examples, best practices, and minimum recommendations to help staff feel supported to create performance measures. And we want performance measures that, again, can tell the story of the work, but also tell stories across grants as well. Additionally, in this work, we've heard community feedback about how important it is for grant reporting requirements to be very clear in grant applications and agreements. So before they can decide to put together a proposal, pitch an idea, and understand if there's resources, it has to be really clear how much the reporting is going to take and what that entails. So this is a really important part of this guidance as well, is to help staff set clear expectations for our community-based organizations or businesses that want to work on a grant and what they'll need to do when applying and performing the work. So some of those expectations that we cover in writing up this guidance include frequency of reporting, city responsiveness once we receive data, and how to communicate about data standard requirements, privacy, civil rights, Title VI, ADA, Title II, and language access compliance needs. The next large section of this guidance focuses on how to create performance measures and how to communicate them. Most important is starting with understanding of why you're asking for the data and a plan of how you're actually going to use the data. And we describe also how to set up measures that relate to city budget priorities and equity outcomes. So you think back to that pyramid that I showed with that nested reporting structure a couple slides back. That's what we're trying to help guide city staff to be able to do. Again, we want those measures to tell the really detailed, unique stories of these grants that are very responsive to different community needs. But we also need measures and data that we can aggregate to tell stories
Could
across.
I also just add, and I'm sorry to interrupt
Yes.
your flow because this is good, but it fits in perfectly right here and I don't want to miss the opportunity. It's a two-way street. In addition to us clarifying what data and information is required, the very next sentence should be explicitly clearer about what happens to the grant should that data not be provided on a timely basis. We've run into this problem.
Yes. Keep holding those thoughts when we go into discussion. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah,
I won't because I forget everything. That's why I wanted to put
That's
it in
great.
right here.
writing it down, yes.
Thank you.
And so in order to kind of, again, build a nested structure, we help try to walk folks through how to build out standardized measures. So something like always number of people served, consistent categories for types of events and services. These are things that we can aggregate across grants. We also want to support how to incorporate partner proposed measures, as of course those doing the work are going to have important, unique experiences, and they'll have unique data that they want to submit to help tell the story of the work. And then we're also proposing required measures for all grantees, such as type of organization, the size of the organization, demographics about the organization, and is this the first time the organization may have received a City of Portland grant? So these are consistent data we could come to expect from all grants with this guidance implemented, and grantees would also know upfront what kind of information they'll be required to share. So this guidance has gone through a first round of review with staff across from the city and different bureaus and offices that work in grant making and data management. We're working on incorporating that first round of feedback and of course any feedback we hear today as well. And then we'll have a second review by the full city grant makers group that Sheila talked about in the previous slides. For the overall framework, we are going to continue to implement it and support it through the end of the U.S. Treasury Rescue Plan grant funds. We're continuing to document lessons learned. How could this be? How can we incorporate? And we're also planning an evaluation to better understand impacts and ways to improve the framework. So that way we can be even more ready to expand the framework to outgoing grants or other types of grant programs if there's interest and support.
Is that it? Okay. Thank you so much, Christine. That was really helpful. You're building better practices, and the COVID pandemic and the emergency funds that we received really kickstarted some better practices. And so I'm proud of you and your team, and thanks for sharing that. And these are some North Star ideas that we can start to look at for the rest of our grants that don't currently have that same compliance and system building. So what's the next slide?
A couple I'm going to quickly go through. Website best practice.
So is it back to you?
It is both of us, and what we thought it might be a good idea to share some other cities' websites for their outgoing grant programs, because another thing that we found at the city, we do not have one website to go to that will show all grant opportunities at the City of Portland. They're very bureau specific. So we have a couple examples with City of Seattle.
Bear with me, everyone. Here we are.
What would be a goal for the city to have a website similar to Seattle, or we will also share Beaverton. So if our community organizations were wondering what opportunities are available at the city, we would have one place for them to go to get information on the grant opportunities. That's City of Seattle, City of Beaverton. And then we'll City of Portland.
So there are many different websites that show up. Not one, not centralized. The top goes, how well the internet, Civic Life,
Okay, you're making your point really well. So with the city of Beaverton, the city of Seattle, it was one click and the whole centralized system was there. How many clicks do you have to do in the city of Portland?
One for every bureau.
Okay, one for every bureau. Here we are, Mayor, colleagues, building and transforming to a better government for the people. And I think this was important to get this information out. And are we going to move into questions from colleagues now? Any more information you want to share before we move into that? Okay. Colleagues, the floor is yours, and we can start to dive in with your questions and concerns, and then we'll look to what next steps are at the end of our time. Thanks so much, Christine. And Sheila.
I'll take care of the online first. Commissioner Gonzalez. Renee, you're
He's
muted.
muted.
Thank you. I just want to confirm a couple of pieces. I think it was spoken to pretty well in the presentations. But just want to reiterate a couple of pieces. I want to, first of all, so we will have instances where nonprofits will receive multiple grants from the city in the same fiscal year, but are unable to sort of track the quantity or the number of grants they're receiving. Is that right? And maybe this question's for Tim. I'm not sure who's the best person to answer that.
I may defer to Sheila here, but there have been incidents of not being able to track all the grants that are going into a single community. And Sheila, maybe you can talk a little bit more to that.
Yeah, I think what you said is correct. We do not have a system currently where we could run a report that would show an organization and the amount of grants they received across the city. So I do know for sure, just for working with grants, we do have organizations that receive 5 grants in a fiscal year from multiple bureaus.
Got it. Got it. And along those lines, then, when we're awarding a new grant, there's not any kind of, there's no real mechanism to check what they've already been allocated this year or in years prior, correct?
The only way we could find out, which is the data we used for this meeting, is to look at the contracts that the city has entered into by vendor. And that is only if, like, we could award a grant, but it not be entered into our financial system as a contract or encumbered. So that is why we are moving forward with this web grant system. So we would have the ability to report that information.
Very, does that?
Could you clarify the last part of your point there, Sheila? I wanted to make sure I understood if we implemented which part, the sort of the best practices for the.
So we have already started implementing an outgoing grant tracking system, and the name of that system is Web Grants. We just, all bureaus are not utilizing that system at this time.
Got it. And currently, do we measure return on investment or measurable outcomes towards city priorities for grant recipients? And with the new website, would we be able to track, or is it contemplated that we would track return on investment or measurable outcomes against city priorities?
Yes, and I think that is part of the entire presentation today, bringing it all together, meaning a grant tracking system, a policy that we're all following consistently, and and then the framework for the reporting. So we would have consistent reporting, a consistent system, I can't say that. So yes, that's what we're working toward, and we're already in the process of implementing that system. Got it.
But I obviously done a good job in identifying the need there, and so I'm appreciative of that. Kind of turning to bigger picture, how do we assess currently grants allocation to community nonprofits, ranking it, in priority relative to things like public safety? What's the appropriate time for those conversations to happen? And what is the process of awarding them? So really thinking, we have incremental 10 million in a year. How do we rate those priorities versus public safety investments, and in what forum?
I think one of the weaknesses we discovered is grants go out at different times. They normally have council oversight of those grants. And what we would like to see happen is having periodic, at times during the year, maybe twice, doing these grants. But particularly after the council's authorized the money to do these types of grants, we would want to execute that as early in the fiscal year as possible to award those grants so that the work can be made underway. Having said that, there are going to be times when a new event comes up during the year where we might want to reserve some of that funding to enable you to do additional grants as necessary to some of these organizations. So that is something that we will incorporate into the policy for council's consideration, is how going forward we're going to issue these types of community grants. Did that answer your question, Commissioner?
I think so. I mean, the fundamental point here is we're at a time of sort of public safety crisis, and looking at the large number of dollars going out the door in community grants without, real ROI or measurable outcomes versus priorities. It's an area of concern. But I think you've answered the question. My last one is, when we are looking at our grant recipients, do we have any mechanism to track grants they're also receiving from the county and metro before we fund, or, as we're tracking their overall performance?
We do not, and it's interesting, I just had a meeting with the county a couple weeks ago because they wanted to hear about the City of Portland's outgoing grant program because they were trying to stand one up as well. And so they wanted to know what we were doing. So I was able to share with them that we were going to have this work session and the projects that we're currently working on. So no, and we did have the conversation. It would be great to somehow build a more regional approach to outgoing grants. And so we're not, so we can fund different areas, right? Like what county priorities, city priorities. So we're not overlapping at the city, our own grants, but also with other regional grants.
Got it. Appreciate it. Thank you much.
And just to be clear, in terms of the information we provide you on the systems that are under development are solely systems that would provide information to the City of Portland.
Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Rubio, Commissioner Maps wanted you to go first just because it's easier to manage online that
Oh,
way.
thank you, Commissioner Maps. That's nice of you. So just a few quick clarifying questions. So we is the idea here to propose the creation of a grants management division within the budget office? Is that, or where does this work currently?
The grants division is currently in the what is now called the Budget and Revenue organization, which came out of the Office of Management and Finance. So currently, Sheila is in the Budget and Finance group of the Office of Management and Finance. We're not proposing at all that this would become a function of the budget, although we would have to work very closely in terms of the system that we create.
Okay, and so after the transition, where at least for now, the idea is that it will remain in that sort of structure operationally.
Right, and that structure would also, going forward, include the CBO.
Okay.
The Citizen Budget Office.
Great, and then another question I had was, you had mentioned, Sheila, about that some grants are entered and some are not entered or encumbered in the system. Is that specific to this new system that you have, or can you explain a little bit about what you meant by that?
So the only way we currently have to track outgoing grants is in our financial system. We would set a grant up as a contract, but a contract, we have the ability to set it up as a type of contract, which is a grant agreement. So the data that we have currently, do I feel confident that it's 100% accurate? I do not. And also we could finalize a grant agreement, but it not be set up in the contract system, or it be set up as a contract or an IGA. So it's not 100% that when I run a report in our contract system by grant agreement, that I'm actually getting all of the grant agreements, but it is just the only tool we have currently to use to get a picture of what all of our outgoing grants are.
Sure, and we're just starting this work, totally understand. But just so that I'm clear on understanding then, so it really is determined then by the staff that enter it into the system, what they're calling it.
Correct.
So we can't really compare apples to apples right now because one bureau might enter it as a contract versus one might enter it as a community grant, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so really it's about having that standard across the whole system, the whole city.
Yes.
Okay. And so by that token, then we don't really quite know then how many people we're serving because some might be called grants and some might be called contracts, correct?
Yes, and we also do have one other type, right? And that was not picked up, and that's IGAs, because IGAs are
Right.
in the form of a grant agreement sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So that was not included in the data today.
Okay. And my last question is about what are the definitions that you use about what is a grant, what is a contractor, what are the differences therein? And then how does that play out in procurement currently versus where we want it to go?
Right, so procurement, they're like hands-off on grants, even though we do have a small code that's related to grants in the procurement code. And we typically will say contracts are for goods and services. Grants are where we're passing funding to an organization and they're responsible for that program. So I lean more toward a contract is for goods and services. We also have a tool that we use, and it's actually a federal tool that helps a bureau determine if it's a grant, a subrecipient, or a contract. So, and then with ARP, they added one other, it was like beneficiary. So I'll use that tool as well for outgoing city grants and not just for federal grants, because it's a great tool for someone to work through to determine, is it actually a contract or a grant?
Okay, great. I would love to see more and learn more about that. So maybe I can talk to you, our staff can talk to you offline.
Okay.
And then the last just piece of feedback I have in terms of like conversations with the county, it would also be great to understand also, how they do that, but also recognize too that a lot of their procurement are for services that in some instances, the city gives community grants for. So where there are contracts over there, they might be grants over here because of the split in what the city does versus what the county does. So I just want to flag that because I think that's a really important distinction, that there's a contractual agreement with outcomes for the county for certain nonprofits, whereas over here they might have a different, more community-focused goal.
Yeah, they did share with me in that meeting that most of their agreements are set up as contracts, which surprised me a little bit because of their federal funding and the pass-through, where those would be subrecipient agreements, not, so I was a little surprised that, and we had a conversation and we talked about that, the tool, the subrecipient versus contractor. So you're correct.
Yeah, and it's different because there are definitely there's much more structure around those agreements than what I think maybe exists or does not exist here at the city. So anyway, for what it's worth, thank you.
Commissioner Mapp.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Commissioner Ryan for organizing today's discussion and leading up this project, and the presentation today has been great. I think I'd like to start out by revisiting a slide. Can we go to that weaknesses slide I think that Tim talked about?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you. In this presentation on the weaknesses slide, the second bullet in terms of weaknesses was, consistent compliance with financial policies and city codes. And I just want to state really clearly and on the record, and particularly clearly to my staff from bureaus, we should not be handing out grants that are not consistent with financial policies and codes. And I'm sure everyone on council agrees with that. I'm going to ask my chief of staff to kind of follow up with maybe Tim to get some clarity on what's happening there. And I don't want to belabor the point in this particular meeting, but that seems like a
Yeah,
We just shouldn't
and
be
I
doing
didn't
that.
mean to say that we were executing grants that weren't consistent with the policy. It's just sometimes the degree to which we're doing the policy. And again, we're going to be reviewing that policy based upon what we hear today in order to make it stronger.
That's great. And I'm sure the wording there is, you don't have a lot of space, so I wanted to have some clarity on that, and I appreciate that. What's going on there is more subtle, and I also am sure that everyone on council just thinks that we just should not be handing out grants that are not consistent with our policies. And let's just underscore that principle. And I think Commissioner Rubio got into this space a little bit, but one of the things I'm trying to figure out is what this project really is. To what degree this is a matter of staffing versus software. And maybe one way to help me understand how this plays out on the ground is we could maybe take a hypothetical example that might come from my portfolio. Let's say BES has we have a big river cleanup project, and as part of that river cleanup project, we'd like to have community engagement. And we decide to budget some funds to have some community engagement in this piece to advise us about how we should go about doing this work. So, and we do versions of this all the time, and I suspect we're not. Under the system that you propose, what happens now? I'm a program manager over at BES trying to facilitate community engagement for cleanup. And we're going to give some grants to a local organization to maybe pull together periodic community meetings with specialized groups. Then what happens under the system you propose? So I talk to someone, I make a phone call to someone in the budget office or smart cities or what?
The goal here would be you'd be calling the grants division, and we'd have all of that information regardless of bureaus in that system. So we could, hopefully, Sheila could go quickly through there to respond to your question. You would still have the ability to go to your own organization, and they would be accessing that system as well to respond to your information. At least that's my understanding of how the system would work.
So would this be sort of a consultation where we would have a draft application and there would be a human being on the budget side who would kind of review the application and say, you need to kind of more clearly spell out what your outcomes are here, or you're not collecting demographic data? Is that what's?
So you would call our office and we would work with you to get your application set up in Web Grants, following the data and equity reporting framework, following the policy that we create for outgoing grants. And then that grant would then be tracked from application to closeout.
And CBO would be doing the usual financial impact statement.
Okay, that's helpful. And does this imply, are we redefining the work that's already being done by human beings over in the grants office, or does this require new staff to kind of facilitate this conversation?
Well, I mean, of course, when you have a new system and new data and equity reporting requirements, we probably cannot handle that with our existing staff. We can't resource that. We currently have one FTE that works on Web Grants, but with the policy update with requiring all bureaus to come on board to utilize Web Grants, I do think we will need some assistance with that, because we want to be able to meet we don't want to tell a bureau, you have to wait for a month because we're working with BES right now on their application. We want to be able to meet the demand. And
Sure.
so when a bureau is ready to come online with their application, we want to have sufficient staff to help them through that process. So it will be a coordinated effort with the Grants Management Division and the Bureau.
Okay, that's helpful. Do we have a sense of how many individual grant programs there are within the city that might participate with this when we take it citywide?
How many bureaus?
Not bureaus. I mean, I run a ton of grant programs through in the public workspace. So are there like 400 individual grant programs? And this also kind of harkens back to some points that I think Commissioner Gonzalez was trying to make is let's evaluate these. Maybe we should evaluate some of these grants, which also makes sense. But I've also been around long enough and literally seen the evolution of grant programs over time where we go, well, this grant program isn't quite doing what we want to do. So we're going to create this other grant program that kind of fills this gap. And then, frankly, I think that describes a whole lot of the grants that we have in this world. And then periodically going through and evaluating which of these still make sense. I think it's pretty easy to identify grants that came out of a moment in time and then kind of continue on without intervening. Yeah, without a lot of reevaluation, for example. But I'm just trying to, but the narrow question I'm trying to ask now is, do we have 400 different grant programs and frankly 400 different applications that would need to get into the system, or are there 20?
I don't think we have that many. And unfortunately, I don't have the answer to your question because we currently are not, there's no oversight or coordination across all bureaus. So I know the bureaus, but I don't know how many programs each of those bureaus, how many grant programs they currently have.
But after we set this up, we would know
You will
this.
know,
Okay,
yes.
Right now, we'd have to go bureau to bureau to get that information.
Sure, and that's obviously a problem. And I want to say clearly, I love the direction we're going in, or you're going in with this, and I support it, trying to get a sense of the scope of what your resource needs are, which gets me to the second half of my question here. So there's software, web, what's that? Do we have a specific software program, or do we have? And so we already own that?
We don't own it, it's a cloud-based system.
So it's a cloud-based system. Are there software costs associated with moving in the direction that you're talking about? Or do we already kind of own that or have the license for it?
We already have that.
Okay, that's great. And I think there was a slide which might, what was the name of that? How about can we pull up the next step slide? Comes late in the.
Was it the last slide? That's a commissioner.
So in the next, no, is it that one?
Or next
I think
steps.
I think there's one towards the end. Yeah. Actually, here, tell me about the qualitative data management analysis. What are you referring to there?
Yeah, so in the rescue plan example with the data equity framework, so far, a lot of our data pipeline and management has been focused on quantitative outputs. That's what the data you're going to get first. Those projects are in implementation. But in our collaborative reporting measure process, many of the projects of those 47 have also agreed to do outcomes-based surveys or focus groups. So we are starting to now also receive qualitative data. And so that is part of continued learning in this framework is how do we receive that? How are we going to store it, analyze it, and share out that type of data as well? Because, yeah, performance measures can include quantitative and qualitative to really track progress towards impacts and outcomes.
That's very helpful. And let's say we get this set up, and it sounds like to some degree, if it does set up, and it's already set up, at least for some of the ARPA stuff. Let's say I wanted to go there and download some data. What does that look like?
Yes, so on the Rescue Plan Open Data Portal, you can explore the data in the visualizations we've created. So that can be, some people would like to explore the data just like that.
Yeah.
But you can also go to the top right corner. There is a kind of data catalog, and you can look at all of the data sets to download as well.
Okay. Well, I would be interested and concerned about, or one of the valuable things here is the data which is embedded there. I'll tell you, when you showed me the websites for other jurisdictions that seem to be doing this better than we were doing, it wasn't clear to me when in the just top line of those websites, if I could go down and download a data set that would allow me to meaningfully explore. And so I just want to be sure that as we move in this direction, we can actually download like a data matrix. It'd be great if not only it referenced the grants itself, but maybe also linked into other budget data, demographic data. I think one of the spaces where the city has an opportunity to get a lot smarter, and we're kind of gesturing in this direction, but haven't really got here, is to collect data and have different data sets be able to talk to each other. We've got lots of budget data, which is great, but and some outcome data, but not enough that you can easily do any meaningful analysis. But as we literally sit in a Portland State building, and as I walked into this building today, there's lots of brilliant young kids who, I think, if we actually gave them a data set and said, tell us the relationship between our spending on eviction prevention and actual preventions or evictions by zip code or something. Like we could actually get some. We don't have that capability now. I think if we did, we could actually be a lot smarter and a lot more efficient. So, which is one of the reasons why I support where you're going here, and want to make sure that at least this begins to move us in that direction.
Thank you.
I'll just pull this up just to help to get to that vision, that data truly being that community asset and having that type of partner exploration. It's hopefully from the framework we presented today, that investment in the governance pieces, the human parts, the technology infrastructure, and that support is so important in order to make sure we have the data that they share.
Absolutely. And here I'll say one more thing, and then I will step away from the mic for a little bit. Just a basic piece of information that would be, I think, is incredibly important for, I think, current and future policymakers here is like the number of grants that are out there, like the name of the grant programs, who's receiving these dollars, and some history around that. It's remarkably challenging to find this information. You have to be a real data jockey to be able to basically tease it out a little bit from contracts and whatnot. But it's hard to even manage this space. We don't have enough information at the most basic level to meaningfully manage the space. And I think get to some of the things that Commissioner Gonzalez was talking about as in, are these grant programs actually moving us closer to what our shared goals are?
Thank you, Commissioner Maps. Yeah, just a few comments. And you led right into this. And it's building that culture of how we manage data. So I noticed that we have the software. That doesn't really matter unless you have the staffing and the culture that's starting to actually use the software. And that's the work that we're in right now. And again, you told great stories of how we took the emergency of COVID and the pass-through money that came from the feds and the state. And we were told to build these systems. Doing this work session, I was really taken with how hard it was to get all this information over the last 2 months. Same thing with every bureau I've had. I've asked for data sets, and I know I put staff at PDS, Parks Now, Civic Life as well, through a lot to try to come up with that because we don't often even have the system, the software system. But I think there is a hunger, and I'm really getting that from the grants team to move towards this centralized system. A couple of comments when I was listening to my colleagues. I really liked the comment Commissioner Gonzalez mentioned about how we're working with Metro and the county in terms of our partnerships where these investments go and that transparency. I know most people who pay their taxes have a hard time tracking which government entity locally is doing that work. So it's really beholden upon us to provide that type of clarity so they can see that system. And again, my whole impetus on this was when I was elected, I found it so shocking that we didn't have general guidelines. I know when you are seeking funds for investments, when you're running a nonprofit with the foundation and corporate community, they have a lot of guidelines that you have to adhere to. They want measurable goals, and there's feedback and there's communication and evaluations, whether you're in good standing to continue to do that work. And so I just want the city, and I hope Metro and County, to really align themselves with those better practices. And I'm thrilled that you're on that process already. Do we ask this as a question? First of all, I know you meant both quantitative and qualitative, right? Okay, good. Are we asking our partners to show us how they're matching these funds? Do we ever do any matching? I'm concerned that we're building a lot of nonprofits with government funds, and will they have the staying power to sustain that organization for the long term and not just be dependent on sometimes appropriations grants for their survival? And so I feel like it's a disservice if we don't help them build that capacity as an organization. Do we have such a question that's asked, if how much they're providing in private funds or other funds from their organization to do the said work?
I can speak to special appropriations. No, we do not currently ask that question or have a matching program.
Okay, as we deliberate this, I would, as we look at better practices, I'd like to see if, one, I'm sure some other cities might be asking that, and I know it's common in the foundation world to ask such questions, so I look forward to that better practice improving as well.
They do, because I found one.
You already found it?
I already found a neighborhood matching program. I think it was Seattle
Seattle?
or
Okay,
Phoenix. I can't remember which one.
great. And I think we're doing a service to that organization by helping them build that capacity for the long term. What about feedback loops? With the ARPA funds, we were asking for data, we entered it, we had that transparent data. I know when I was running a nonprofit, it was so helpful to look at that information. It's always about improving. So you're not penalizing someone in the first year if the intention and the grandiose expectation wasn't achieved in a short period of time, but you want to see that they're building towards that. What kind of feedback loop do we have from the government partner to the nonprofit partner about how that investment is going, and really work together as partners beyond the transaction of the money itself?
I think that's where the data visualizations and folks being able to explore some of the data on their own at first can lead to some of those initial questions. But really, that feedback loop can only happen if we not only have the analyses that are created, but set up times for that conversation and to talk about it, how progress is going, matching it there. So that's people practices again.
And that's where I could see, as we build the system, where the grants office is handling all of the dotting i's, crossing t's, and in terms of compliance, but it's really that engagement with our bureau partners and the partners in the nonprofit community we're working with to listen and engage with one another to see where this is going. So if there is, if they do reapply, that application will look different than the one prior because of actually doing this authentic work together. And I think that's the secret sauce that seems to be missing right now in the city of Portland and its investments.
One benefit we have heard some feedback from some partners as well is when the data was shared back, oh, I could use this information for my next proposal or grant application, whether it's with the city or another entity. So really trying to show that this is a system that can benefit the grantees and community partners as well is just great when that can happen.
And in the silos of practices, I know that there's some great examples out there in the city that are doing just what I spoke to, so I don't want to dismiss that. Get back to your strengths and weaknesses, but the weakness would be that it's not part of our protocols currently, correct? Okay, thanks. I'll open it up for my colleagues for more questions as we move forward.
Commissioner Maps?
What are the next, I fully support this. This is clearly a good government move and frankly, long overdue. What are our next steps and what do you need from council in order to move forward?
I think we continue to do what's already been started. And we will take the comments we heard today, some of which both of you listed, and see if we can incorporate that into the steps going forward to make sure we're giving you the information that you need. And not just you, but also the entities that want to come forward to try to have a grant from the city.
Great. All that sounds great. Something I would be just curious, I would still love to see a comprehensive list of the grants that we have and a list of the people, of the organizations that have received grant dollars and roughly how much that would be.
Commissioner, does that go beyond the 18 million that we isolated or the big enchilada?
Why don't we start with the subgroup that we've been talking about today? One of the questions that I have that I've been afraid to ask, so I'm not quite clear how we focused in on the particular group of grants that we're talking about. So let's take, for example, let's go back to the hypothetical example I talked about. Let's say a BES sponsored river cleanup. We want to do community engagement, and let's say there's some federal dollars involved here. Because of the federal dollars, are you, for our purposes, our conversations today, would that program be part of this conversation or outside the conversation?
Well, it would be part of our office would also be involved in that because we also oversee the federal, state, and private. We've kind of excluded federal pass-through at this point. The ultimate goal when we started Web Grants and started talking about the data and equity reporting based on ARP was to apply that to all federal, state, and private grants that are passing through the city of Portland, because currently we don't have the ability to report out on all of those. And we thought, well, it would be great to take this tool and apply that to our federal, state, and private. The Web Grants, we've really just been focused on city-funded grants, but long-term, I would like to have the pass-through funds in that system as well.
Okay, I'm still not quite sure. Let's say there's some city dollars, and if automatically, if they're federal dollars in, is this for the time being not part of the conversation? Okay, got it. Helpful.
And I just have, it's almost just editorial preference on the visionary guidance page that you'd put up, and you don't need to scroll there. Can you just make sure that accountability is part of the vision? That there was a lot of discussions about what we were going to do to better illustrate our expectations with potential grantees, but I'd also like to see accountability be a part of that. And also just to reiterate what I mentioned during the program, during the slideshow, is that just as grantees thought it would be helpful if we were more explicit about what kind of data and follow through we require, which I completely support, we should also be explicit about what happens should that data not be delivered in a timely manner. Yeah. We shouldn't have to have a lengthy back and forth with people who've received taxpayer money for very specific services. If they cannot demonstrate what it is that they're doing and how they're doing it, we have a stewardship responsibility as well that goes beyond whatever issue it is we're trying to solve with the grants. And so I just want to make that crystal clear.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have this session.
Yeah, good. I think this was a very productive session, and I appreciate it. And I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I agree with Commissioner Mapps. It seems like a smart, good governance program.
If there's any more questions, and then I have some next steps at the end. But
great. I noticed Commissioner Rubio has your hand up.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see.
Thank you. So just thanks again, Commissioner Ryan, for the opportunity to start the conversation about this. I wanted just to add on to Commissioner Mapps' request for that overall list. When you're building the list for us to take a look at, and I know this is just a beginning or a starter list for us to start having the conversation. I think it's really important to look at dimension of the kind of grant that it is, because still by what you had mentioned earlier, it's kind of apples and oranges right now versus how people are categorizing them when they're in the system. So acknowledging that somewhere on that list, and then also including the annual operating budget, and if available, the FTE, because it's an important indicator of us understanding, like, if there's just a big number, it's not just a big number. Do they have the capacity to manage that big number of contracts coming in? So it gives us a better idea of scope of capacity. Also the mission, or at least the ability to disaggregate the amount of money so that we can understand what mission they're fulfilling in which bureau. So that it's not just a rolled up number, that we're actually understanding what that is for. And then if possible, and this may be too much for this big look, first take, but if possible, the type of contract that it is for example, outreach contract is really different, or engagement contract is very different than a program delivery or a service that we're funding to be delivered. So just, some dimension so that we're just not looking at rolled up numbers that we really can't tell what it's about would be helpful. Thanks.
And if I may, just very quickly, building off of Commissioner Rubio's data request, I'd also be interested in at least periodically receiving data on dollars not spent. Not every grant that you get out in the community actually gets spent, and often for good reasons. Pandemics happen, snowstorms come in and take out your street fair or something. But I think that's important information that I hope as we're able to back out of the systems that we're building in the future.
Mr. Gonzalez, do you have any final thoughts?
I had one follow-up question and then just some parting comments. In terms of the software we're talking about now is called, what's it called? Grant Web or Web Grant?
Web grants.
Okay, and we've talked a lot about the measures longer term for outcomes against city priorities today. I think that's been a recurring theme, and I'll get back to that in a second. But did I understand that currently those that are using that software are only tracking diversity and equity outcomes, or is that, there was a explanation of what they're tracking currently, and are they tracking anything besides diversity and equity outcomes?
So we are tracking that. I think that was the ARP conversation. Web grants, we do not have a consistent reporting mechanism at this time. And that is why we're going to, in the policy, require bureaus use the data and equity reporting framework so we can start to build that consistent reporting in our web grant system.
And for the example that we presented for rescue plan projects, it is all performance measures. So every performance measures is tied to a project outcome that is nested under these larger community outcomes and equity outcomes and council priorities. So relation to all of that.
Yeah, so you're talking true KPIs and measurements against potential community priorities. That's helpful. I guess I just leave it with a couple of general comments. Again, but appreciate this session a great deal. I do think there would be broad community interest in a uniform tracking system across city, county, and metro. I recognize the nuances that Commissioner Rubio was getting at in the differences between the city and county. But first things first, we need to take care of getting the city all under the same platform. And while outside the scope today, I'd certainly put programs like PSEF at the top of the list as wanting to have similar measurements and tracking system, just given the magnitude there. Second, I'm going to rehash for multiple times now, but the reality that we are devoid of true ROI or measurable outcomes against city priorities to date, currently in the grants we talked about today, that's a material gap, and we do need to confront that very, very directly and promptly. And last but not least, the relative priorities of our public safety needs, our infrastructure needs, in both cases dealing with some real structural deficits and community crisis type issues versus some of these grant dollars going out the door without any clear mapping to community priorities. And to me, that's on us to address as best we can in this current budget cycle. And certainly do our best to track and create a platform to track going forward. And I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
I'll just chime in here with one more just quick thing. And Commissioner Gonzalez, thanks for bringing up PSEF. I intentionally didn't mention it because I thought we were staying away from the topic, but just really quick, it's worth stating. actually, we should really look at PSEF's standards. They're quite rigorous compared to the rest of the city. We've done a lot of work on it, and I feel like it's right up there with the Portland Children's Levy in terms of its rigor and depth of how it looks at potential feasibility and capacity of grant recipients. So I would highly encourage us to bring in and for us to be educated or briefed on how PSEF conducts their vetting. I think that would be actually a great model for us to work from when just throwing that in there.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Rubio. In fact, we often talked about both Children's Levy and PSEF as providing those better practices, and that's what we're missing then for those that don't fall into those categories and the pass-through. I just wanted to, is there anyone else that has any questions? Are you good with wrapping this up and giving you some time back? No one's pushing back on that. Good. So we heard a lot of themes today. I think all of us were agreed we really do need to create a better centralized system. And we also know that what stuck out today was our grant reporting guidelines, especially for that 18 million we talked about, 17 million. It lacks those centralized guidelines. We also keep hearing we'd like to know that the measurable outcomes are happening, that the partners are actually measuring them. And then and they're with city priorities, but we're also having check-ins, whether it's 6-month reporting, annual reporting at minimum, that is part of the feedback loop that needs to be inserted as well. And I think that it was important to note that it came up a couple times that we remain nimble for emergencies, and what does that look like, and when we have a pot for that. So we covered a lot of ground today, and we also were doing a lot of work leading up to this point. It's been a real pleasure to get to know the grant office, to help be part of the building. I know when we wanted to get that out of civic life for good reason, because it needed to be in a centralized location and get civic life back on its original mission. And I think a lot of the other bureaus could see this better practice moving forward. We've talked a lot about what the timeline is like to bring some policy and code updates back to the council. And we think we can meet a deadline in May based on this work session. We got some great feedback. We'll be reaching out to other offices to make sure your voices are heard, but we will be coming forward with some updates in policy and code so that we can implement this work with more fidelity in 24 and 25. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to our amazing staff. Thanks to anybody watching and listening. We're adjourned.
Thank you.